We're going to begin using the adjustable ring technique, also known as the magic loop. To do this, we're going to take our first strand, wrap it around your 3 fingers with a tail, grab your tail, pulling through the loop, chain 2, we're going to chain 3, I like this technique better than the original chain 3. Traditionally, 2, 3. You could start out this way and chain in 3, but I'm not going to use this technique because what happens is on the tip of the hat it's going to point, and I don't want that point. By doing the magic loop method, the tip on the top of the hat lays perfectly flat, and I can start out with more stitches, leaving the top even flatter. So I'm going to go back to my magic loop method as I did before. And I use this technique in a lot of my hats. Chain 2, 1, 2. And we're going to crochet into the loop. Now you can crochet as many stitches as you want. You can stitch in 25 loops, you can stitch in 3 stitches, 21 stitches, or whatnot. But with this project, I'm only going to need 3. And it's all on one strand. With this, don't pull it too tight. I'm going to crochet 3. I'm going to single crochet 3 in the hole. This is going to form my miters as it comes along. Already it's forming a triangle. Now I'm going to crochet in the back loop, except where I'm going to make my miter. So I'm going to count 3 into the back loop. I'll just demonstrate. 1. Now with the miter, I'm going to single into the single to both loops. back into the back loop. That's going to be 3. I'm going to count them in threes. 1, 2, 2, 3. One, two, 3, and then 3. You can slowly see a triangle, a wide angle triangle. If you'd like, you can mark it with a straight pin or a yarn needle or just any kind, or a yarn of a different color. I'm going to mark mine with a pin, a T-pin. I use those a lot to mark my projects. Now look very closely. Watch how the stitches. See how this, now watch how closely, you see how well the stitches, you see 1, 2, 3, or you can see a hole. You're going to count into the middle. That's going to be your miter. So every miter, you're always going to crochet on the tip, and you're going to crochet 3 single crochets as you go along. But in the meantime, you're going to go back to the back loop. I'll demonstrate. I'm in my miter, 2, 3, now the stitches or the count's going to change as we go along. The triangle is going to slowly increase. Here's that same weave again. 1, 2, 3. That's going to count as your top. Normally when I do this, I can do this by eye without requiring having to count every single stitch. And once again, there's the weave again. Two, 3. Now as we go along, the triangle is going to start to curve inward like a natural curve. Now, as we go along, you're going to start to see this, and I'll show you later. Single crochet in the back loops. Until you come to the miter. Here's the hole. I've been working on these all miters. Now in the tip of each miter, you're going to single crochet 3. In the same hole, in the tip hole. And then you go back to single crocheting in the back loop. You're going to continue to do this until you get to the next miter. And the same is done here on out, the third miter. So you have 3 corners. Oops. You just completed your last row, and so far the work's looking like a triangle. The work is, each triangle side is popping outward, but this is a triangle. Look closer. And you'll see that the miters, you can see the work of the miters. Here's that are 3 that's going to the center of the work. The next set of miters leads to the center of the work, and the third set of miters is leading to the center of the work. Flip it over, and you can see the stitches look different. The work is lying flat. And on the back side, you can still see where the back of the miters are. That's the first one. The second set. And there's the middle tail, and then the third set. And this is what the work will look like before you make the decrease. Now as you decrease along the way, the work is going to start to curve outward like this. So I'll meet you there. You've already completed your decreases, and the hat is starting to curve inward. To make sure you can see this smoothly, take your tailor's ham. You can easily see it smooth over. The hat is now curved. There's the top, and then there's the bottom of the hat. There's the crocheted further down, and I'm completing the crab stitch. That'll be my ending right there. And I'm going to complete that crab stitch with my H8 hook. And here's the last. But I'm going to skip that hole because as a tip, I don't want to bulk. So what I do, with the last stitch unworked, I'm going to cut this, pull it through. With my tapestry needle, put it through. There, this will even it out a bit. See how it's not bulky? The extra stitch does not bulk. It's just barely going to show like it blends in with all the other stitches. We're just going to tie it over just to make sure it's tight enough it'll stay secure. And then you're going to weave it in. You're going to weave it in and then cut it off. I'm just going to weave it in some more just so you'll see it. But anyway, you're not going to really leave in this like a tail. I'm doing this for demonstration purposes so you can see. But what you're going to do is you're going to cut off this tail. So this way it's going to blend into the work. You're going to weave it with your needle into the work. So that's the way it's going to look. And with your point, nice so far. This is how the hat looks on the mannequin. You can still see the triangular shape. You can leave the hat plain or make it as a church hat like I'm going to show you the next few steps. You're now going to insert your hook into row 16. My pin is here. I marked row 16 within my miter. That's going to be the first row that's in my miter. But anyway, you'll see as I go along. I'm going to crochet my next brim, my second brim, into the last portion where in the last miter before I made the decrease. You can see the miter. These three. Here are these were the back loops that I worked in previously, into one stitch, but the miters I single crocheted 3 stitches into the one making my miter. So to begin my row, I'm going to insert my latch hook in that miter. In the first miter, I'm going to insert it, and then I'm going to continue working on the back loop like I worked it. I'm going to work into it in a continuous line on that row. So with that, I'm going to insert with my latch hook into the first miter. That's going to mark my first row. And like I said, I'm going to work in the back loop, so that falls within that row. Now this is going to be the first. I'm going to use the string or the yarn that I cut off from the skein, and I'm going to insert it, and that'll make my second brim. And I like it's in the miter because where it sits on the brim, it's gonna sit up. The brim, the second brim, I'll call it, is going to stand up. It's not gonna stand down. But you'll see as I go along, because it'll affect the angle of the brim. Now I'm continuing to crochet through it, or latch hook I'll say. Now what this does, it's creating a base for the brim. That's the nice thing I like to do with my single crochet. I can just pinpoint and just stick whatever design I want to. Now notice when I use in the crochet hook, I'm not crocheting it all the way. I'm not crocheting it like this. I don't want to do that because it creates too much of a give that the brim will not sit right, and it's going to be harder to crochet in. So I like to crochet it halfway. I mean, you can use your crochet hook or you can use your latch hook as I'm doing, because I prefer it because of this nifty latch. I just love this latch. It's just so much easier. All I'm doing is following the row, the back loop row, that makes it a nice mark. Okay, now notice that I'm coming back to the next miter from the second miter that I'm coming back to, and I'm going to insert my crochet hook. As opposed to crocheting in the back loops, I'm going to crochet into the miter, last second miter, and that gets a half crochet too. And I'm just going to continuously latch hook there. Here's what it's looking so far. Here's that little mock chain that I made. All I did was just follow it directly from the chain from the first starting miter. But anyway, you get the idea. So I'm continuing to make my chain here. I'm going to continue doing the chain on this, and I'm going to go ahead and use my latch hook into the third miter that you see here. And while I'm going to do that same mock chain back to where I started in the first miter, but I'm going to do something a little different, and I'm going to show you it when we get there, and I'll meet you there. I just completed the third miter. I inserted into the last third miter. Now I'm going to do something different. Now notice whenever you crochet, whenever you crochet in the round, the stitch is going to increase. It works like a spiral. When you're working on this hat, you're working on it like a spiral, and it goes up and up and up like this. But what I need to do to go back exactly into the first miter, I need to go down a row. So this way it'll directly meet the miter, the row or the mock chain. So what I'm going to do here, instead of this as I would go into the same row, I'm going to go down a row just by simply just blending it down, just going down a row. There. Okay, I'm now going into where I started from was this first miter, going right back into it. Okay, now I'm going to leave it pulled out. I'm going to take it off my mannequin. I'm going to take my size 9 hook, now you can now see the mock chain. You see how easy it would be to crochet into the hooks, and at the same time it won't let the second brim from stretching too much. It'll keep it nice and firm and intact, so this way the brim can firmly stay up. So now you notice that. Okay. With that being said, we're going to take our hook where we left off from the latch hook. Matter of fact, let's chain 1. So this way we don't want to pull it too much. Okay, and all we're going to do is single crochet into the mock chain in each hole. Consider it like a new dimension or a new direction. I'm going to show you one more last time of single crochet. Okay, so far this is what it looks like since I've made my crochet, and the triangle's doing a good job pivoting that portion of the brim. You can already start to tell. Here's the bottom view. Here's the top view. You can already see it start to develop. So I'm going to go ahead and single crochet around my new mock chain, and I'll meet you at the end of this row. I just finished crocheting in the mock chain all around. Okay, now I reach my last stitch. I'm at the end. Crocheting into the last portion, even where the miter is. Okay, one more. Okay, now I just finished that. I am now going to single crochet into the back loops again. And I'm going to do this all around. I'm going to do this all around, and I'll meet you when I complete the row. I just finished my previous row, and I'm finishing it off. And so far, so good. Here's the top of the hat. Here's what it's looking like so far. This is the back of the second brim. But you can see it's in its triangular shape. But anyway, you're doing good. I'm finishing my last row in the back loop. And since I'm working in a spiral, you could so to say, so I'm working around and around. You can tell here's the last stitch. You notice that one is over the other, but that's okay. Now, since I'm finished, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my finishing stitch. To add a finishing touch, I'm going to do the crab stitch, and I'm going to use my H8 needle. I like going down a needle whenever I do a crab stitch. So by doing that, here, let's go back down one. Here, there. Chain one into your first stitch. It's like single crocheting backwards. Okay. You're going to keep on going. Grab it. Okay. And so far, here's your finishing touch. And with this, it's going to complete 2 inches for the second brim. And I'll meet you on when I'm finished at the end of this row. I just cut off my tail when I reach the end of the crab stitch. I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm weaving it in. Cut the remain. Now once again, I just did this for demonstration purposes, but in reality you're going to cut this portion off. Okay. I am now going to make the Actually, on second thought, I went ahead and cut it off. It would look terrible if it had just those little loose ends in there, so I just decided to cut them off. Okay, now I'm going to make the long chains. I'm going to make the chains. Here's how the hat looks so far. And you notice how the hat is staying up, the second brim is staying up. And I like the way the triangle helps shape the hat by when it goes down. So I'm now going to add the fringes. And by doing that, I'm going to use the same technique as a foundation like I did for the second brim. I'm going to put this down for now. I'm going to take my latch hook again. And you see where the miter lays? I'm using the same technique. I'm going to latch hook into that miter. And I'm going to take the remaining of the yarn that I cut off from the skein. I'm going to rejoin it. I'm going to use my half latch hook technique. Now I'm going to use the same way. I'm going to follow the line. I'm going to let the back loops of the row be my guide. I'm going to crochet into the back loops, and like I did the other time, I'm going to latch hook into the hole of the miters. Here's my last back loop stitch. Once again, here is the miter. I'm going to latch hook into that miter. Now I'm going to return to my back loops as it's going to be my guide. I'm going to continue this, and I'll meet you there. I forgot to mention I'm on the 3rd miter. And you'll notice here, if you look at the back loops very closely, here's the rest of the, notice how the back loops, the row starts. I'm still in the same row. I'm crocheting in the same row, but now it's gonna slowly lead up to the second row, to the row above the row that I'm working on. Now take note where I adjusted the stitches so it'll be in the same row. I'm going to crochet, and notice how it magically appears the back loops. Okay, gonna drop it down a notch, and that's how you're gonna directly go back to the first stitch where you came from, just so you'll know. I'm coming to the last stitch, and I'm gonna go ahead in the first miter, give it another one. Okay, done with the latch hook, and now back to my I9 crochet hook. And like I did before, that's my foundation row. So this way I will crochet, but before I do that, well, actually, I did crochet the foundation hook. I'm going to crochet for the fringes. This time, I'm going to increase. Going to single crochet 1, chain 1. Actually, let me go back. I'm going to chain 1. Okay. Anyway, meanwhile, the foundation chain is here. The foundation, or the foundation row, mock chain, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to single crochet, but this time I'm going to increase in the rows with a chain 1. So all of it, single crochet, chain 1. That's going to be my increase. So this is going to allow the Lush effect for the fringes. So this way it'll give you a lot of lushy fringes. I'll do it again. Okay, and you're going to do this throughout this whole row. And I'll meet you there once I finish. I finished crocheting into the last hole. Now my next step is working in the back loop. This is where I'm going to make my chain, all crocheting in the back loop. I'm going to now chain 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's do this again. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And I'm going to crochet in the same hole. I'm going to secure that chain. So they're actually chain loops. Repeating in the next back loop, you're going to single crochet 1, and you're going to repeat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And in the same stitch, in that same back loop stitch, it's another chain. I'll do it one more time. In the back loop, single crochet, chain 13, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. In that same stitch, you're going to secure it, forming a chain loop. Here's how it looks so far. And here's how it'll look with the brim up. It's going to slightly peak, slightly over the brim when it's finished. And because I increased it with more loops, it's going to have a lushy loop effect. So go ahead and repeat all around. You're going to finish, actually you're going to finish 2/3. You're going to make enough loops. You'll look at the triangle to be your guide. See where the miters rest? This is going to be your front point guide. You're going to crochet, single crochet. You're going to do the same effect 2/3 of the way. Here's 1/3, here's 2/3. And here is where you're going to stop, because you're not going to crochet the other 3/3, the last of the thirds, because this is where the brim will stay up, causing the lushy loops to make the hat fall, and while this brim stays up. But anyway, I'll show you that in moments to come. I've just now finished my rounds for the fringes, and here's what the top will look like. 2/3 of it will have the fringes on it, 1/3 of it will stay without it. Here's what it looks like. And here's with the loop that I've been working with. And this is the last loop that I crocheted for my loop. Going to go ahead and cut that loop. Pull it through, or better yet, if you want to, crochet it. Crochet it closed. And then just take your tapestry needle and just fasten it off. And you can just weave it in. Weave it in the increased portion that's in the crochet foundation, or whichever way you like. Personally, I like to weave it in here. And you are finished. Put the brim up. And you are finished.